Jeremy Hecklinski is an Iowa Hawkeye. The news broke officially by Hayes Fawcett of On3, 2023 Max Preps Georgia Player of the Year, Max Preps National Player of the Year finalist, and was an Adidas All-American. I talked about it in my last video when I did on Jeremy, all the things he accomplished in high school, how great of a player he was on and off the field, comes from a great family. We talked about all that good stuff, right? What's interesting, though, he chose Iowa. Now, I talked about Tennessee, and I talked about, obviously, North Carolina being options for him. North Carolina's added Gio Lopez. Tennessee's obviously added Joey Aguilar, right? So those were out of the window. Now he goes to Iowa, which is a very interesting situation because they got a lot of quarterbacks, obviously, on their roster, right? So they have Hank Brown, who's a sophomore. He's from Lipscomb Academy, right? He's in there. They got, obviously, their senior quarterback, who's likely going to be the starter, and Mark Gronowski. He's going to kind of be the guy for them. They also have true freshman Jimmy Sullivan as well. He's from Fort Wayne, Indiana. And they also have Jackson Stratton. He comes over from Colorado State. So it's interesting to say the least, right? Because Gronowski, who's likely going to be, but remember, he's a grad transfer. He comes over from South Dakota. Had a pretty good year. 2,721 yards passing, 23 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Now, remember, he comes over, from, a different program, right? And obviously South Dakota. So it'll be interesting to see what he's going to look like, what he's going to do. But I do think, obviously, if you're Iowa, you just want to bolster this room, right? A lot of young talent that we mentioned a little bit earlier, and Hank Brown and obviously Jimmy Sullivan. But now you bring him over with a Gronowski, with a Stratton, and you feel pretty good about your quarterback room. I don't believe a starter has been announced just yet. Like I said, likely the starter is going to be Mike Gronowski. But if you're Jeremy, you go in there and you compete. Nothing you're not used to, right? Nothing you're not used to, obviously, at Wake Forest. Nothing you're not used to at, obviously, playing here in Walton and, obviously, Marietta here in Georgia, right? So it gives him an opportunity. Worst case for Jeremy, if he does not play this year, he likely will get the keys probably to the Iowa Hawkeyes. Somebody's going to have to transfer, whether that's Jimmy Sullivan or Hank Brown. Somebody's not going to stay, right? And that's just the reality of the situation, y'all. That many quarterbacks, somebody's eventually going to have to transfer out. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. But I'll put my money on Jeremy. I think he's going to compete. I think he's going to contend. And I think he could be a guy for Iowa. And the problem with Iowa is they've always had the defense, right? Defense has always been pretty good. They've been just challenged offensively for whatever reason, right? Just throwing the ball down the field, whether that's lack of talent at certain skill position groups or if the quarterback can make the throws, right? I do think this is probably one of the better quarterback rooms they've had in a long time, in a while. So they should be able to have more production on the field, and they should be a contender, and they should be able to compete in the Big Ten. Now, the Big Ten is loaded. Ohio State, Oregon. Can't forget about USC, big year for Lincoln Riley and the Trojans. And obviously the teams that you always know, the Iowas of the world, competing and battling in there. So it's going to be interesting to say the least. But I think a good pick for Jeremy. He can go out to Midwest, families from there, and go out there and compete, man, try to land a job. A starting job at that. Very talented kid, 4 years of eligibility, so he still has a whole bunch of time. But hopefully for him, man, he's able to get out there, compete and battle, and show the whole world his talent. Because he is very talented, man, and probably one of the better quarterbacks they had in a while, just in terms of their room and not being able to struggle. But that's my thoughts, man. Jeremy lands with Iowa Hawkeyes. That'll be an interesting team to watch in the Big Ten this year.